do I really need a long arm kit for my XJ? My answer is I would strongly recommend it. It's going to ride so much better, especially if you have more than 3 inches of lift. It greatly improves the ride of your Jeep due to the geometry and how the forces are applied through the control arms. You no longer have this steep angle from your short arms anymore. You've got a nice flat control arm so that the suspension can do its work. It can move vertically and it's not trying to, jam up in the axle's not trying to jam up into the front of your Jeep. Also when you flex your Jeep, you're driving down a trail with a lot of twists and articulation in spots. You're not going to have what I like to call the skateboard effect. So when your axle articulates, it swings back and forth, just depending on what side is up and down. But your axle has what is called axle steer, and so let's say the passenger side is drooped out and the driver's side is compressed. The passenger side will be further underneath the Jeep than the driver's side, and it's going to make your Jeep want to steer funky, and your leaf springs are kind of doing the same thing in the back, or coils, or whatever you've got. And so it really flattens out that geometry and makes the arc a lot more linear instead of just a really small radius on that, if you will. So in theory, the longer your control arm, the less your front axle is going to have of an arc to swing on. It's going to be more straight up and down, but you get too long and things just get kind of weird. Anyway, today we're going to be installing our Alpha Series long arm kit on our XJ. We've got some cool new stuff that we're going to show you along the way with this one. We've got a aluminum control arm set that we're going to be releasing. Probably by the time you get this video, we'll have it out. But yeah, we're going to get started with the Crossmember. I'm going to go over a few things with you guys really quick, show you the hardware and the tools and everything like that you're going to need. So yeah, let's get started. So we've got all of our hardware laid out here. These right here are the crush sleeves, so they'll go in between the unibody frame. We've got bolts that go in between those. We've got all of our Crossmember hardware right here, so this kind of bolts everything together. You're going to need a ratchet, a 13/16 socket, a 3/4 socket, a 3/4 wrench, a 7/8 wrench, and a 7/8 socket. You're also going to need to drill some holes. So you're going to need to drill a 27/64 hole in the bottom of the frame rail for a 1/2 inch, 1/2 tap. You will also need the tap. You will also need to drill a 1/2 inch hole all the way through the frame, the side of the frame rail. And then you will need to drill the outside of the frame to 3/4 to allow the unibody, the tie-in crush sleeves to slide in the hole. And of course, a drill bit operating device such as an electric drill motor. So a quick tip before you do anything to your Jeep, before you put it on jack stands, before you take the front axle out or take the tires off or anything, I would highly recommend that you install the Crossmember first with the front axle still bolted up with the short arms and everything. Your Crossmember mounts back here, your stock control arms mount right around here, so you can leave all of that attached. And when you get your Crossmember bolted up, you get that all installed. Anything happens, maybe you run out of time and this is your daily rig, you can still drive it back to work the next day, right? And finish it after work or something, whatever it ends up being. You got to go to the store and buy some more Slim Jims, I don't know. But you install your Crossmember first, and then what you can do is measure for your control arms before you ever even take anything apart, you can measure from the control arm mount down here and on the upper link to your axle mount, right? And you can get all that set exactly how you want it. Maybe you want a 1/2 inch more stretch, you want to push your axle forward just a smidge more. You know, you can do all that and get it all set and ready before you tear the whole thing apart, and then you're not really sure where the axle is going to go, right? So that's my biggest thing that I would highly recommend, is that you install the Crossmember first, and that way your Jeep's still drivable no matter what happens. All right, so a couple quick things before we begin. Our Jeep has frame stiffeners on it, our frame stiffeners, and so before we put those in, we drilled all 3 holes that go into the bottom of the frame out to like 1 inch or something. We drilled them way out. And so what we did was we put 1/2 inch nuts on the bottom of the frame stiffeners before we put them in. So we welded them all the way into the frame stiffener in all 3 spots on both sides, so that when we put our long arm kit on there, we've got 6 1/2 inch bolts that are welded into 3/16 thick frame stiffeners, right? So much better. If you know that you're going to do this, just do it from the beginning. It's well worth the time that it takes to do it. It just makes it a lot nicer, ridiculously strong. So yeah, I'm going to show you guys that. But just know that if you have not modified the bottom of your frame rail, I'm going to show you the 10mm bolts that you're going to use. All right, so right here we have the 3 holes that the Crossmember mounts in to these 2 right here. This is where the factory Crossmember goes, right? And so you have an extra hole. You're going to have to drill and tap this hole to a 1/2 13. So this one's going to be a 1/2 inch bolt hole. You're going to drill and tap that one out. The other 2, these are going to be your 10mm holes. So that's what's going to hold that in place. All right, so we're going to take the middle hole and we're going to install this in place. All right, so again, if you don't have your frame stiffeners with nuts welded in, you're going to use this 10mm bolt and not this one. All right, to install our center section, we've got our side mounts already in. We've got our transmission supported by the transfer case back here with a jack. So we're just going to go ahead and put the center section in place. Alright, so once we've got our center bolt for the crossmember holding the crossmember up, the transmission pan is in place, both sides are on, we're going to go ahead and get our tie-in plates put on and mark the holes to drill all the way through the frame. So let's go ahead and get that going. Alright, so once we've got our holes to drill all the way through marked in the frame, on the side of the frame, we're going to grab a 1/4 inch or 3/8 or a smaller drill bit so that we can get a pilot hole started all the way through. You just want to make sure that the drill bit is long enough to go all the way through. Makes sense. Alright, now that we've got the outside of the frame drilled out to 3/4, and then the inside of the frame, you only want to drill all the way through with a 1/2 inch bit. So that way your bolt goes all the way through. But this doesn't. Alright, now that we've got our crush sleeves into the frame, we're going to slip our tie-in brackets on. We're going to get the bottom bolt started. Alright, once we have our bottom bolts finger tight here, we're going to go ahead and get the bolts going through the frame. Going to put our washer and nut on the back sides. Alright, so once we've got the tie-in plates installed, we're going to go around and do the other side, and then we're going to get started on getting the control arms ready and getting the brackets, the Johnny joint pressed in on the axle sides and everything, all that good stuff, and we're pretty close to being done. All right, so now that we've got our crossmember installed, we're going to work on getting our control arms installed. And so if you have not already, you're going to want to get all those off. Cut the upper control arm mount that's on the inside of the frame. You're going to want to get that off. The lower control arm mount, you're going to want to cut that off, flush with the frame. And for the axle, if you're doing just our 3-link, you're going to need to use an air hammer or something to press the factory rubber bushing out. So you're going to want to press that out. And then this was already in there from when we had these axles under our TJ. So we have the Johnny joint that is supplied with our kit. You're going to want to press that into the axle housing. And I'm going to show you guys really quick, if you bought the 4-link, I'm going to show you how that works. Alright, so if you bought our 4-link kit, it's going to come with this laser cut bracket. This welds onto the axle tube. You'll need to remove your factory sheet metal bracket and weld this one in place. This gets welded into this bracket. Once you have that all welded on, you'll want to assemble the bushing into the housing using the rock jock tool that presses them together. That's really the best way to do it. Got all the hardware for it. All right, now we're gonna get our control arms adjusted and set. So ours ended up being right at 34 inches. This is a 3.5 inch lift that we have on here currently. This is probably where it's going to stay at. Everything looks good. So 34 inches for the lowers. And we are right at 33 and a half, 33 and a quarter on the uppers. And so that's measuring on the outside of this bolt right here to the grease zerk. So keep that in mind. If you're measuring on the other side of it, it's going to be less. But from right out here to the upper control arm belt is 33 and a quarter. And so we just want to make sure that both sides are the same. So go ahead and get those adjusted, get your jam nuts tight, and you'll be good to go. Alright, well that's all for today's video. Hope you guys really enjoyed this and found it informational. We'd love to help you guys out with any questions that you might have. We love hearing your feedback, and we know you guys are really going to enjoy this long arm kit. We've been building these for probably close to 9 years now, and we've only recently added the aluminum control arms to this, so it's a really cool upgrade. So it's going to fit all of the legacy orders that have had that purchased this long arm kit. So nothing's changed with the kit over the years. It's been the same thing. So yeah, looking forward to hearing from you guys, and let us know what you think. Hope to see you guys next week. Peace out.